Husky Game Prep is brought to you by Gate City Bank, proud supporter of your Huskies. Stop by and ask us about our low interest rates to finally buy that new snowmobile or ice house you've been waiting for. Contact any of our 43 locations across North Dakota and central Minnesota, and of course around the St. Cloud area. Gate City Bank, for a better way of life. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Hello and welcome back into another episode of Huskies Game Prep, brought to you by Gate City Bank. Sam Getzinger here with you, and joining us, like always, good friend of the show, Mick Hatton from therinklive.com. Mick, how you doing today? It was a very interesting weekend over at the Herberts National Hockey Center, to say the least.
Yeah, there were plenty of storylines there, definitely. I'm trying to stay warm like I think everybody else is right now in the state.
That's easier said than done. The past couple of days have been just ridiculously cold. I don't remember a stretch this cold in my lifetime, at least. But, just get through it day by day. I want to talk about this last series with you here, Mick. This Huskies taking on Western Michigan. It was a big 5-1 win for them on Friday, and then Saturday was a 5-4 loss in overtime. And Coach Larson wasn't really happy with either game. What are your thoughts on this past series?
Yeah, I know on Friday night he really thought that, even though they won 5-1, that he didn't think they played really a complete game. He thought they played well in spots. He didn't really think that they sustained a lot of things that he wanted to see kind of throughout that series. They obviously, they got pretty good goaltending that night, and were able to pull out the victory, and a couple seniors came up with big games. Easton Brodzinski, and it was good to see Will Hammer get a goal there in that game. The next night, obviously there was a controversial no goal call. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what the problem was there, but but at the same time, they're leading at home in the closing minute of the game to close out a sweep, and they give up a bad. It was a screen. There's a lot of traffic out there, which is what you expect, I guess, with the pulled goalie. But they have to find a way to close that out, and and then obviously, they give up the 3-on-3 is a little bit more of a coin flip to me. I don't care how he has been playing. But if you can get to the overtime, you never know what's going to happen there. But they needed to find a way to close that out in the third period, and they weren't able to. And here's the really bad news. If things stay the way they are in the conference, guess who they're going to play in the first round of the playoffs? They're going to get Western Michigan, a team that they are now 2-4 against. So that's not a good sign. Let's be honest about that.
Yeah, there's not been many teams, especially this season, that have had St. Cloud's number, but Western Michigan is definitely at the top of the list. You mentioned a 2-4 record against the Huskies. It all started back in the pod. The Huskies have only won games against Western Michigan this past weekend and the first game of the year. And then besides that, it's just been much downhill for the Huskies. And you touched on the playoffs, and the NCHC came out with a big announcement the other day. They're going to move all their playoff play and the frozen face-off to the Ralph Engelstad Arena over at the University of North Dakota. And Mick, I know you told me you were in the press conference with Commissioner Josh Fenton. So give us the lowdown on everything that's going on in the decision process that was made with that.
Well, I think they just didn't see where it was they could pull it off in St. Paul with all the restrictions that are going on. And, here's part of the deal. The NCHC, and all conferences make a lot of their operating expenses, or a lot of their operating revenue, out of these conference tournaments. So, they needed to find a way, after not having a frozen face-off last season, to have some revenue coming in this season. In North Dakota, some of the restrictions are a little bit lower. They also looked at Omaha, going back to Omaha. I think they, because of it's a larger facility, I think up at Engelstad, I think that kind of played into it a little bit as well. So, the social distancing, you can have a few more fans because it's a bigger arena. There's probably some more, Josh Fenton actually mentioned, having some more sponsorship, maybe opportunities up in Grand Forks. So some of it's financial, some of it, too. I mean, we're, with going to the single game format, they're trying to keep people as safe as they can from, getting COVID right before you go to the NCAA tournament. So I mean, there's a lot of factors, I guess, that went into that. I wasn't surprised at all that it went to one site. That was kind of the feeling I've been getting ever since they were in the pod, and they were able to pull that off successfully. But yeah, that's where we're headed. In a few weeks here. Well, I guess about a month from about a month from now. We'll just say that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's going to be taking place March 12th through the 16th, and we're kind of seeing this all around NCAA. The Big Ten's doing it. I believe they're going to be over at Notre Dame for their conference tournament, if I'm not mistaken. But it should be a lot of fun. I know I've heard a little bit of rumblings that maybe the top 4 teams were the only teams that were going to make it, but they decided to expand to 8, which I think is a rather good idea. Do you think this is a great idea for the NCHC to have all the teams in the pod in North Dakota?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was another factor that came into it. Is there was some discussion at one point, the way it sounds, that of only going to the top 4 teams, but they decided they wanted all 8 teams to be involved. I think this conference, I mean, with what they were able to pull off in the pod, I mean, there's an inclusion, and we're all in this together kind of feeling, I guess, with them. And so to exclude 4 teams out of their tournament, I think they just liked the way that sounded or looked. And
right.
On top of that, I mean, here's another thing to be honest about. They want to get as many teams as they can in the NCAA tournament. Denver's sitting in 5th place right now. They're under 500. You can't make it into the tournament with an at-large bid without having at least a 500 record. So you want to give Denver that opportunity at least to possibly, get that automatic bid by winning the conference tournament. All the teams obviously have that opportunity, but I think in the case of Denver's had a ridiculous schedule.
Yeah, yeah, they have.
If you take a look at, who all they've played, and with this unbalanced schedule, I mean, they're having to play, North Dakota, I think 6 times.
Yeah, that's never easy. North Dakota, Duluth,
St. Cloud State. That for a minute.
that's pretty wild schedule for Denver. That's a really good team over there too. They just got the long stick in this NCHC schedule, and it's not helping them at all. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it's Nebraska Omaha, much better Nebraska Omaha team. Play them 6 times. So I mean. Yep. And on top of that, they played UMD and they played, St. Cloud State. So, I mean, they've probably had as tough a schedule as anybody in the country. I'd make the argument. I mean, if you regular season schedule.
Yeah, and just looking at this NCHC conference, especially after this weekend, Duluth sitting at the top, then you have North Dakota, then you have St. Cloud State, and then Omaha, as you mentioned, Denver, Western Michigan. So if the season were to end today, St. Cloud State would take on Western Michigan in that first round over at Ralph Engelstad Arena. We'll see how there's still a couple of series left, a couple of games left for everybody. So we'll have to see how the conference shakes up and everything. But I want to turn our attention over to this next weekend. St. Cloud State will be on the road taking on Miami over in Oxford. And Miami, they've had a tough stretch of about 3 series going up against St. Cloud State and University of Minnesota Duluth. So what are some of your expectations for this series, Mick?
Well, I mean, you hate to, overload on this is a must win, kind of. But I mean, if they want to, finish in the top 2, let's say, and avoid Western Michigan right now, I mean, they have to go in there and sweep. I mean, they have to have these 6 points this weekend. UMD is sitting only 2 points ahead of them, but they've actually handled Western Michigan, and that's who they're playing this weekend again. And then St. Cloud State and UMD will finish out with a home series. But yeah, Miami's really struggling right now. 0-7-1 in their last 8. They've lost 6 straight. Their last series was at UMD, and they got outscored 11-2 in those 2 games. The biggest thing with Miami, and we talked about them not that long ago, but I mean, the biggest thing with them is they just struggle offensively. I mean, they're averaging 1.85 goals a game. Their goaltending is really good. I mean, so that always is going to give them a chance. Ludwig Persson is still having a great season if you look at him statistically, but they just don't score a lot of goals, and they're not very good on special teams right now. Their power play is around 15%, and their penalty kill is at 75.8%. So St. Cloud State's got to go in there, win the special teams battles. They can maybe Here's the thing that we didn't say last week. They can maybe get away with, not, jumping out onto a lead and jumping on guys and still have a chance to win these games. But you don't want to give a team like that hope either. I mean, they're 0-3-1 at home. They haven't won at home yet. So, I mean, St. Cloud State has really got to do something this weekend and pull out 2 wins.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge series coming up. St. Cloud State on the road against Miami over in Oxford, Ohio. Mick, it's always a pleasure to have you here on Huskies Game Prep. Enjoy yourself this weekend. Enjoy watching some hockey, and we'll see you back here next week.
Hey, thanks so much, Sam, and appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, thank you very much. Be sure to check out therinklive.com for all your college hockey news. We'll be back on Huskies Game Prep a little bit later on.